I had been involved in politics. My last two jobs were in politics. One was a political magazine, and one was in Washington, D.C., working in electoral politics. And I had a very, very good job. I was paid very well. And something felt missing in my mind, my heart. I liked what I was doing. I had a wonderful set of friends. I wasn't looking for anything. But I started thinking when I was looking for my next job in Washington, D.C., so I get a better job, and I make more money, and I get a bigger apartment, and more clothes, and you have access to certain things based on that income, and that's it. It just wasn't somehow feeding me enough, and I thought, and in the end, you still die. So I wasn't a Buddhist at all at the time. I hadn't been exposed to any Buddhist teachings. I was satisfied with my life how it was, but somehow it struck a chord that obviously I was about to meet an extraordinary being, my teacher. I had no idea about that, but I was on the verge of taking a 6-month break, a trip to Asia. So I just decided to go for the trip, and I knew Asia was far enough away that it wasn't something I would do on the normally short holidays you get in the United States. And I had a number of friends that had traveled there, and they said it was extremely safe for a woman to go on her own. So I headed off for 6 months and to take a break and kind of evaluate what I really wanted to do and who I wanted to be. But it wasn't that conscious of looking for any other kind of spirituality. I just really wanted to have a good time, and I'd saved some money. And there were lots of jobs available for me at the time, so I figured I'd just come back to Washington, D.C., which I did, and I would move in with my old boyfriend and just do another political job. So when I came back 6 months later, I had had an extraordinary trip. I had met my teacher, whom I had no conception of what that meant at the time, and didn't see him as any particular long-term connection in my life, this teacher Lama Zopa Rinpoche. But I had gone to, had a minor accident in Kathmandu when I arrived there on the trip, and then as a result of that I had to recuperate, and I saw a poster in a cafe that said meditation course, Kopan Monastery. Kopan Monastery was also listed in the Lonely Planet Kathmandu Guide for that year, 1987. It's listed every year. It had a very good write-up, and there was a little quote in the 1987 year. I don't think it was in any other year. This is karma for you. It was a quote from a person who's a monk now in our tradition, and it said, "Go to Kopan Monastery, it will change your life." So I went up there and I did a 10-day course in April 1987, and it was a wonderful course taught by an Australian monk, and a lot of loose ends I felt kind of came together, and a lot of questions answered that I had had floating around in my mind that weren't really satisfied by my own practice or spirituality at the time. And then I decided to change all my plans and went on a 5-week trip with Lama Zopa Rinpoche and 60 of his students to Tibet that spring. So I came back to the States following this extraordinary experience and couldn't seem to recapture the life I had. It didn't have much meaning anymore. I had met the Dharma, and some real jewel had ignited in me. So then slowly I turned my life to, about 5 years later, to serving centers, living and working at centers. And from that process, 13 years later, just everything was headed in that direction. And then I just wanted to, finally something cleared, and I decided I wanted to ask about, could I take ordination, and then fortunately was able to take ordination in 2000.